Hello everybody. Today we're going to do a tutorial for shampoo bars. So if you've bought my recipe, then this is for you. If you haven't bought my recipe, the link is in the description below, along with some other recipes in my Etsy shop. There's going to be some more coming soon. I'm going to do a body cream one, and then anything else that you think I should do, then just leave a comment below and let me know and I'll see what I can do. But this is for the shampoo bar, so you're going to see a tutorial of how I make it, and most importantly the consistency required before putting it into a mould. This isn't just like a pressed consistency. We're going to be heating this up in the microwave on several short bursts until we get the desired consistency, which I'm going to show you exactly what you need before moulding, because it's a very specific texture. Okay, so we'll get to making it and then we'll unmould and I'll show you some packaging ideas and things like that. Okay, so before we start, I'm just going to tell you that the ingredients can be quite hazardous because this is a surfactant based shampoo bar, not a soap based shampoo bar. So you might want to get yourself a mask like this to wear while you're weighing out the ingredients, because you don't want that going onto your chest because it can be quite irritating. So get that out of the way first. Also, you can wear some eye protective gear as well if you wish. So in here I've got my main base ingredients and part of the wet ingredients. I'm going to add the rest of the wet ingredients once this is melted down to the right consistency that I need before we mould it. So the questions that I've had from people who've bought this recipe, I've had several sort of, questions asking basically the consistency that is required. I mean, I do put that in the tutorial, but I think it's always better to sort of visually see what the consistency needs to look like rather than read it off a piece of paper. It can be like best to sort of visually learn then, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just sort of mixing the powders into the liquid here so that it ends up like a sort of thick paste before I microwave the first round. So this is just a small batch, so this will probably take me a few minutes, so a couple of sort of times in the microwave at a couple of minutes a time. Might take 3 times, but I'll show you as we go along the consistency that you need before you mould it. So best to have 2 spatulas if you can, because this gets stuck. It likes to get stuck, so I'll have one sort of harder spatula and then a silicone spatula. And there's a lot of stirring involved as we make this as we go along. And for today's, I'm just making some White Witch, which is one of my own blends of essential oils. So I'm not going to add any colour to this one because this one doesn't have colour, but you can add your colours if you want, and you can use micas or liquid colorants. If you're using liquid, you'd need, a couple of drops. Mica's probably like a teaspoon, half a teaspoon. You just decide on which sort of depth of colour that you want. So I'm just going to put this in the microwave for a couple of minutes. My microwave I think is an 800 watt, so I'm going to do 2 minutes and then show you what it looks like after that. Okay, so after 2 minutes it starts to soften quite a lot, so it doesn't take long to make if you're just making a small batch. I'm only making 8 in this batch at the moment because my microwave, I had to replace it and I can't get my bigger bowls in there, so I'm having to do small batches, but small batches take less time, so it all works out. So as you can see, the first 2 minutes gives a consistency pretty much like it was, but it's starting to soften. And in here there's also bits of shea butter, so that's going to start to melt, which will make this a bit more soft. So that's the first 2 minutes. And just keep stirring, so we're going to go in for another 2 minutes now. So you may have seen people sort of pressing theirs. I mean, there's different recipes all around, but this one is one where it turns into like a gloop and then goes into a mould, rather than all of the sodium cocoa isothianate noodles, if you're using those, being visible. This one is a powder that I use. You can use the noodles if you want to, and you might end up with some visibility, but I use a powder, so this is what mine looks like in particular. So back in again for another 2 minutes and I'll show you the next round. Okay, so that's after the second burst, and now things are starting to fluff up more, so it's becoming sloppy, you can hear it. So this is well on its way now, but we're still not there. It almost takes on like a translucency when it is ready, and that's basically after all of that, all those surfactants have melted into each other. So I use sodium cocoa sulfate and sodium cocoa isothianate. They're my two main ones, and then I use different ones for the liquid, and then there's a whole host of other ingredients, including some shea and things like that. So this is becoming quite nice. So as you can see, it looks like mashed potatoes, but we would still have to go a bit further than that. So that's after round 2. Scrape that off again. Scrape down the sides as well. Okay, so I'm going to go again for another 2 minutes. Okay, that's after the third round. So now it's become kind of quite aerated. So I'm just going to mix this. I think it's almost there. In fact, you'll probably get away with that one. Yeah, that's ready. Okay, so it might not be too visible on screen, but it's like a sloppy mashed potato consistency, but there's some sort of gelatinous sort of a look to this, and it's sort of got some translucency as I hold it. I don't know if that's going to pick up. I'm doing my best. So now we can add our liquids that we've got left. So I have some proteins, some fragrance and a preservative in here. So this is going to liquefy it a little bit more. So just gently fold that in and mix until it's fully incorporated. So if you're using colour, I would add it to the mix before you start microwaving. Just might make it a little bit easier to mix in, because you're mixing so often throughout the process. So add it at the beginning, I would. So we just want to mix and mix and mix until that's really, really incorporated in there. We don't want any pockets of fragrance at all. So now you might be able to see the consistency a little bit more. So it's taken on a sort of more of a beigey creamy colour rather than the white. Although that does have something to do with the patchouli oil that I've got in this blend. This is White Witch. Okay, so we are ready to put this into the mould and leave them to dry for a while before pressing them. If you want to press them, you don't have to, but I like to, or I like to plane them off. So these are the moulds I use. You can buy these on eBay, probably Amazon. These are just the pebble moulds. Use whichever ones you like or whichever ones you can get a hold of. But these I found on eBay a long time ago. They probably still do them. Okay. So I like to use this spatula to press this into the mould with. So I just scoop some out and just start pushing it in there. This is a messy process, this bit, but you want to just make sure that it fills the whole cavity, and I like to overload mine because we're going to allow for some planing. This will start to dry very, very quickly as well now, because we've gone to that gelatinous stage. It will start to cool and dry very, very quickly. So you've got to get this in the mould pretty fast. So it's not like pressing them like you've probably seen on other people's videos. But these are fantastic shampoo bars. This is one of the best recipes that I've had, or that I've made. I tried lots of different ways, but this one just worked the best because I wanted to get all of those nice ingredients in there, like the protein. So this has got soy, wheat and corn protein in these, which is really good for the hairs. Also some panthenol, so provitamin B5. So some really nice ingredients in these shampoo bars, and there's also some BTMS 50 to give some conditioning properties. So it's really good. I never have any complaints from customers about these. They just keep coming back for more and more and more, which is really good. Just keep pushing that in. As you can see, like I said, it is rather messy, but they don't look messy when they're finished. Good bang down. And just a little tidy up around those edges a bit. I don't worry too much because I'm going to tidy them. Just want to make sure that we've loaded them up enough to allow for trimming and things. Okay, so that's them in the mould. Okay, so yes, rather messy, but you'll see in the end what they look like. Okay, so after about 10 minutes you can start to push down. I'll show you that in a minute. Let me just turn this bit off and I'll show you when they've cooled how you can press them a little bit more into those moulds. Okay? Okay, it's been about 5 minutes, so they're starting to set as the colour starts to change and go back to a lighter shade. So now they've reached that point, I like to press them just to make sure that that mixture is right inside the cavity of the moulds, and I just continue to do this throughout the drying process. It's pretty fast how quickly these set up, so if yours aren't setting up then you've not reached that nice jelly consistency. This one I think you can see it a bit easier. This one in particular here has got that nice translucency to it. So you want that type of a look. The other question I get, I will just address this, is one of the ingredients is a liquid surfactant called Plantapon. And a lot of places don't stock Plantapon, so it used to be something that was quite easy to get hold of. So if you can't get Plantapon, what you want to find is a secondary surfactant that's quite high viscosity. So you want quite a thick, gloopy consistency rather than a very fluid, runny one. Otherwise, these won't set up in the right way. So just look online, ask your suppliers which one they would recommend if they can't get Plantapon. I mean, there's so many out there. I can't think off the top of my head because I use Plantapon all the time. I can actually get hold of it, so it's a tricky one for me to answer, but that's all I can say is the viscosity needs to be quite thick, not like a paste, but a thick gloopy liquid then. So find out which ones you can get from your suppliers and see if they can help you along the way with that one. Okay, sorry about the lighting. It's funny light outside, so it's casting a bit of shade in here. Okay, so this is our shampoo bars. I've just actually left these overnight, so they're ready to unmold now. So I'm just going to do a couple just to show you. So just pop them out from underneath and you'll see the shape is there on these little pebbles, whichever shape you decide. So I'm going to show you two methods that I'll use. So the simplest one is to have a planer, and I bought this one from Etsy, and it's just a bamboo box with the blade that's not too sharp. I mean, you don't want to go shoving your finger down there, but it's not too sharp. It's pretty good. So sometimes I use this method and sometimes I use a press, which I'll show you as well. So I just sort of take off the edgy bits, just overlapping in the mould there, and I will just plane off until it's got a nice smooth side like the top, and just use your finger to just take those little pieces. It's not too much that comes off, and with the scraps you can sort of make little round pieces that I use, you know, for myself at home or whatever. So when you've planed it, it looks like that. So it's a much quicker, easier way than using a press. But yeah, you do need to tidy up those if you're using these moulds. Okay, so I'm just going to grab my little bits. I just save all these bits up and I just use them myself. So I just sort of roll them until I've got a decent size, and then, yeah, I can just use them myself. Or I can give them away to family and things. Okay, the next method is, let's take another one out. Again, I just, sorry, I didn't show you that. I'll take another. So again, I just push from underneath of the mould, so just push it and pop it out. And these, like, they're really hard actually. They're soft enough to mould and soft enough to scrape, but they are hardened up pretty good from yesterday. Okay, so if you're going to use a press, because they're still sort of quite sticky, they're not really sticky, but they're sticky enough that if you just used it without anything, it would all stick inside the press. So this press, I will try and leave a link below for where I got mine. This is just from Etsy, and it's just a 3-piece set. So this is a 2.75 inch bottom, and the column just sits on top of there, so it's nice and secure. And then the top, you'll see, has also got a groove in it, so it just creates a shape. It does actually make them look really nice, but I'm just going to show you a method. So you're going to need some starch to just stop this sticking inside. It does eventually stick if you're doing one after the other I sometimes clean this thing in between, you know, sort of moulds, but just tap it down. This is just some tapioca starch, so I'm just going to coat it a little bit. I'm going to brush all that off afterwards, but it's just for pressing purposes. So when you press, you want your nice smooth bit that was the base, inside the base of the mould, that's the smooth bottom, you want that to go down. So just pop it in, grab the top, and we're just going to press. And because they're quite soft, they're not really soft, but they're soft enough, you can actually press this so that it creates a nice shape, and it's not too difficult. So you just want a little bit of pressure, and it's just so that it makes it nice and neat. I know it's a bit of a faff, but if you want your things to look nice, you have to go through these processes. So after that, I take a little brush. This is just a fan brush by Real Techniques, and I just brush off all of that powder, because we don't want any of that residue. So there's not really too much of a difference between the two. I'm just going to do another one just to show you again. So that's the one that's planed, and that's the one that is pressed. So they're pretty much the same. It's just that this one will have like an edge, and this one won't. So we'll do another one, because I'm going to show you a way to package them with the press as well, for those who've got time to do this. Okay, let's just do another in the press. Just depends, it's all personal preference, like what you prefer yours to look like, and also time, if you've got time to do it. So again, put the bottom on, bottom side down, top on. I'm just going to press. You sort of go from side to side and up and down as you press. And again, just take it off the bottom and push inside. So what does happen is where that's pushing down, it'll sort of gather inside the column there, which is why you need to clean it every now and again. But they do come off quite nicely. again, just dust it off. You should really be wearing a mask for that. Don't want to get that in your nose. It's not too irritating, it's just a tapioca starch, but you could use corn flour, anything like that. It's just so it stops it sticking to anything that you've got. That one's come out a bit nicer. So you get a nice sort of better shape, but it takes time. Okay, so onto packaging. Obviously you'd have to work out your own packaging and how you want to package these, but I use my own branded paper that I use for my, so let me just give that a little wipe over. Bit of a mess there, sorry. Okay, so I use my own branded packaging that I use for my soap, and this comes in big sheets that I buy from my printer, and I just cut them using a dog bowl actually, and I just put this on my piece of paper and I get 3 per sheet. So that's just to get the perfect size circle, but any bowl that you've got that will fit your shampoo bar is good. I'm just going to take these gloves off because they're going to be in my way and a bit messy. So easy way I will do this is I will take my shampoo bar, get my labels ready. So I've got one for the ingredients on the bottom and one for the label on the top. So I'm going to pop that there. So to fold and make this a nice package, you just fold in and go round and round and round, and you're just lifting and folding it in. Lifting and folding it in, lifting, folding it in. When you get to the end, I just lift that bit up. Get the label, that's the base. So that's my White Witch shampoo bar ingredients, which lists everything that is needed, including the batch code. And then I have my other labels that I get printed. So this is just my White Witch shampoo bar label that I get printed with a company in the UK called Flexi Labels, who do my round labels. I do my own ingredients because it's not going in a circle. It's just quite hard to get your text and your label to match a template. It's quite difficult, so I just get the printer to do all of my shampoo bars. And for each variety I use like a different colour just to make it easy to see on the shelf. So that's it, finished with the ingredients on the bottom. Another way that I have done it is I use this mould, and it just helps you to get a nice even. So you grab your mould without putting the top on it. Grab your piece of paper and you'll be able to see through where it's pretty much central. Grab your pressed shampoo bar, and I just go like that, like that, like that, and I push, and then you can, it's just a way that I found to do this. It sometimes makes it really like a lot easier if you've pressed them already. So you just squish all that in and it makes a nice neat sort of fold, and then use this again to just push it through and give it a little tap down, don't need too much. And it just makes it really, really neat. So then you get your label for the bottom, and the label for the top. And it just, I find that one actually probably looks a bit better than that one, but it doesn't really matter. It just depends how you want yours to look. This one, it still looks great. This one's just a little bit more shaped. So that's an option. So there we go with the packaging. I mean, if you want to ask me some questions about packaging, then I can maybe help you find suppliers, not for the paper because the paper I get done locally, but for the labels, like I said, I use Flexi Labels. But if you're in the States or in different countries, there will be online label suppliers who supply templates so you can buy your blank labels. But I would suggest, if you're using circular labels, to get them printed, because it's just a lot less hassle. So that's the finished product. So I've got a few of those to package today, and that is how I